So we have said n minus 1 is the degrees of freedom. So degrees of freedom refers to how many choices you can make without consulting anyone. You know, in our lives, we have to make choices. We make decisions. And there are those decisions that you can make here and now without consulting anyone. But there are decisions that for you to make, you must consult. So how many of those can you make without consulting anyone? Like now, myself in this class, I can add the class here and now. I don't need to consult anyone. But I cannot now start saying, I will only be teaching you once per week, or I'll be teaching you 4 times per week. That's not a decision I can make myself. I have to consult so many people for that to be the case. The next, that was number 2. Number 3 is chi-square. And these ones I just want to mention to avoid double work. Now we'll begin and I to F distribution. F distribution. So those ones I will not discuss them now, but time is coming when we shall narrow down to them. So instead of double work, that is what we shall do. Okay, so we have discussed the distributions. Okay, let's now look at confidence interval. Look at confidence interval now, like some topic. Confidence interval. Confidence interval. Confidence interval, and we write that a confidence interval refers to a set of values, within which the population parameter is expected to be found. Within a certain degree of confidence. It is computed as follows. We have point estimates plus or minus error margin. Point estimates plus or minus error margin. Now this proceeds to become point estimates plus or minus standard error of the sampling distribution times critical value times critical value. Then down there you write that critical value in brackets crit is a value obtained from the tables. Value obtained from the tables. Stop. Right. That confidence interval can be illustrated as follows. Confidence interval can be illustrated as follows. So this one is point estimate. Point estimate or the statistic. This is the statistic. Okay? That is the statistic. This is called the lower limit. This one is called the upper limit. This side, when you shade, it is alpha divided by 2. This side, when you shade, it is also alpha, you divide by 2. And the whole of this is a 100 minus alpha confidence interval for the parameter. A 100 minus alpha confidence interval for the parameter. Okay. Then down there you write, I think we can, I don't know whether you call them point to note or NP. I think NP. When handling questions on sampling theory, take the following steps. Take the following steps. One, determine whether the question is about confidence interval. Determine whether the question is about confidence interval or hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing, into brackets, significance. Hypothesis testing, into brackets, significance. Significance. Number two, establish whether the population is known, whether population is known or unknown. Number three, establish the measure involved. The measure involved. And whether it is single or difference. Whether it is single or difference. Stop. Still on the same. The measure can either be mean, proportion, or variance. The measure can either be mean, proportion, or variance. And next, follow the appropriate procedure. Follow the appropriate procedure. So those are the basic things that you need to know. Once you get a question on sampling theory, you need to know, is it about confidence interval? Is it about hypothesis testing? The next thing is the population known or unknown? And that was number two. Then number three, you know whether or which measure you are dealing with, which measure is of interest. That is it the mean? Is it the proportion? Is it the variance? Now, your syllabus will confine you more to just these two and more of that one. Very rarely you will come across variance. You might come across one or two, but the most popular is this one, followed by this. Then, after you have known those three things, you now follow the procedures appropriately. By that, I mean there are formulas that I'm going to give you and some other steps that I'm going to give you that now depend on what it is here in step 1, step 2, and step 3. Good. So, and I want to do that using questions. Using questions, that is what I want to do. So for those who are online, can you confirm whether you have received the document I've sent? This one I'm going to use a handout. because your past papers do not have many questions. Actually, if you look at your syllabus, they have not indicated anything to do with confidence interval. It is not mentioned anywhere. But now, what they mentioned for you to understand, I must teach you confidence interval. So it is not there in your syllabus. Express. Those online, have you received that document? Yeah, good. That is good. Esther has confirmed, so we can proceed. So now, question number 1. We can start from Musa. Musa, you can read for us. Question 1.
An importer packs tea buckets containing a nominal 125 grams. This filling machine is known to work plus standard deviation of 10 grams. A sample of 50 buckets and has a mean weight X of 128.5 grams. What is the 95% confidence from relation mean weight delivered by the machine? Assume that the weight of tea is delivered to the buckets is normally distributed.
Thank you, that's good. So obviously that question is about confidence intervals. Yeah, is that so? Yeah, the question is about confidence interval. And the next thing that we need to know is whether population is known or unknown. I want you to go to the notes. I've given you something. I've given you some notes about known population. Are you there? Known population. If you are there, I have told you what known population is, and then there is something we have written that in a question. Patrick, you can read for us. In a question, population is said to be known.
A question, population is known if standard deviation of the population is known, or there is data that can be used to compute it.
Yeah, good. Population is known if the standard deviation of the population is known, or there is data that can be used to compute it. So what we are saying there is the standard deviation of the population. I always see students confused. Mtu akiona the word standard deviation anasimamia hapo. It is the standard deviation of the population. Remember, even the sample has a standard deviation. So it is the standard deviation of the population. Now, nataka uangalie hapo juu where I taught you about the parameters and I gave you some symbols. Can you see the symbol for the standard deviation? You can see it, eh? Yeah, have you seen it in this question? Have you seen that symbol? In the question that we have read? Yes or no? Huh? I'm saying this, go to where I've taught you about parameter. Are you there? I've given you a list of parameters and the symbols. You can see that. Now, look at the symbol I have given you that represents the standard deviation. Umeiona kwa notes? Now tell me whether you can see that symbol in the question we have read. Yeah?
Yes.
Yes. You know, to remember the beauty is on the eye of the beholder. So we have seen it, you know? So if you have seen it, yes, I can see those who are online saying yes, good, yes. So if you have seen it, that means population is known. So hii maswali huwa ina jibiwa hivi. So the first thing tutaandika hapa, known population. Known population. Known population. If it is known population, the next thing that you need to know is the question involving the mean or the population, or rather, or the proportion or the variance. And how you know what it involves is by looking at the question statement. Question statement is the sentence in a question that has the question mark or that is below the word required. Now that question is saying, what is the 95% confidence for the population mean weight? So the question is involving what? Which measure is mentioned there? Mean, yes. That is how you know whether you're dealing with the mean or the proportion or the variance. So the question is asking you to get a confidence interval for the population mean. Now, is that singular or plural? Huh? Is it singular or plural? Population mean. It is singular. Good. So that means there is just one mean that we're dealing with. So it's not a difference. It is single. So sasa unaandika hivi single mean. So in this case, the confidence interval is given as X bar plus or minus Z alpha out of 2 multiplied by standard deviation, you divide by the root of n. You divide by the root of n. You divide by the root of n. So we are told the mean, the sample mean is what? 128.5 plus or minus Z. Now alpha, for now, it is what remains for the confidence interval to be 100% or the confidence level to be 100%. So here we are told the confidence is what? 95. So what remains to be 100? 5. So that is what you call alpha. So inaandikwa hivi 0.05 out of 2. 0.05 out of 2. Multiply this by standard deviation of the population. We are told it is what? It is 10, and you divide by the root of the sample. The sample size is what? It is 50. Now, this is the formula I've given you a while ago. Ukasema point estimate plus or minus the standard error times the critical value, your critical value. Maybe to help you visualize what is it we are doing, at this point, I want us to draw a small diagram, although this is not very necessary. You will not be drawing, but at least for you to connect quickly, draw a diagram like this, normal. So this one, this is where we have the X bar. This is the lower limit. And this is the upper limit. Now this side here, this one, it is 0.05 divided by 2. And the whole of this is 0.95. That is 95%. And then the whole of this is 0.05 out of 2. You can actually even give the answer 0.025. 0.025. So if you remember your normal distribution, we covered this. Yes. So how you are getting this proportion here is 0. So this one then must be 0.475. And this one also must be 0.475. So that this plus this, it will give us 0.5. If you remember your normal distribution. So to call your normal tables, I gave you the normal tables. If you don't have them, they are there at the back of the page of the past papers. You have known how we have gotten this one. Yeah. So nataka uingie huko ndani kwa tables, the normal curve. The normal curve. Uangalie kama utapata 0.475 inside the tables. 0.475. Have you gotten it? If you have gotten it, I will come here and say critical value. Is ukisoma huku kwa row, it is 1.9 na kwa column 6. I told you whatever is in the tables, you can write them. They are supposed to be from 1 or rather from 0 to 9. You're typing here the titles of the columns. So it's better you cancel and you get vizuri. Otherwise, you can keep on messing you. Okay, so 1.96. So thus, sasa turudi hapa. Hii maneno yote nimechora hapa ndio nikusaidie how to get the critical value. But having covered normal distribution should not be an issue. So thus, turudi hapa sasa tuseme 128.5 plus or minus 1.96 multiplied by 10, which is divided by the root of 50. Which is divided by the root of 50. So this becomes 128.5 plus or minus. Give me this answer to 2 decimals. $2.77. 2.77. So with that, if you want the lower limit will then be 128.5 minus 2.77. The lower limit $125.73. If you want the upper limit, it is 128.5 plus 2.77. 131.27. Hence, $125.73 That is mu 131.27. Naandika kwa hivyo. So what happens here is this. I told you we are taking a small sample. We study. Once we understand it, we predict the population. So tumechukua ka sample ka 50 units. Tukatafuta the mean. Now we want to predict the mean of everyone else in that industry. Ile sukari yote itawekwa. So ukishafanya hivi, then you tell us we are 95% sure that any packet of sugar you pick, it should have a mean of 128.5. However, in case imepungua kidogo, it should not be below 125.73. Now, in case imeongezeka kidogo, it should not go beyond 101.27. Now, anything between 125 and 101 is what we call normal. And that's why we were looking at normal probability distribution. If you are found between 125 and 101, you are normal and no action is taken. But if you take a packet of sugar there and find now it is below 125, you need to take action. Or you find it is above 131, you need to take action. It's just like in an exam when you are marking the papers. We set the pass mark, tunasema maybe in 50, but we can give a small allowance. Tuseme 47 na mpaka 53, ama tuseme 47 and 53. Now, if you are found between 47 and 53, then you are okay. But if you are below 47, then we declare that you should repeat the paper. If you are above maybe 53, or maybe we set that can be set a very high value, maybe to say 80 or 90. If you are above now that, you qualify for an award. You're getting that. It's just like even if you go to the hospital and your doctor takes you to the lab and the results come, then they tell you blood pressure, sugar, or whatever they were testing, as long as it's between hapa and hapa, it is okay. Lakini ikipita hapa, that's a red signal. Ikikuwa chini ya hii ama ikuwe juu ya hii, but kama iko within this range, it's okay. So that is how those things are done. So I hope you have understood. So the key thing that you need to know here is when the population is known and we are dealing with a single mean, then this is the formula to use. This one will always be given. If it's not given, we know how to compute it from descriptive statistics. This one, the same case, will be given. If not given, we know how to compute. Sasa hii said we give up on normal tables, which we know to tumesoma normal probability distribution, and that's all. So have we understood that? Okay. So if we have understood, on your own, I would like you to handle question 2. Nataka uache space. Uache space imechukuliwa na hii. This part of your notes, leave a space, utajaza. So the only difference is that this one is talking of 99%. Naona hapa sasa utaandika 0.99, Then your one will divide hapa, everything else the same. So now, Aisha, you can read for us question 3. Nimesema uache space for question 2, utaijibu in the same style. Aisha.
NAIROBI says 5 packs of apples which found to have a mean of 120 grams with a standard deviation of 12 grams. Find an approximate 95% confidence interval for the population being weight of apple.
Thank you. Thank you. That's good. So now we do the same thing. Again. Tell me whether you can see the symbol for standard deviation of the population. Can you see it?
Yes.
It is there. What value is given? So you have started making the mistake I've just said many people do. Nimesema hivi. We are looking for standard deviation of the population. And most people make mistake because wanaona tu standard deviation wanasema iko sawa. But it's not just standard deviation. There are several types of standard deviation. So you must know which one we are looking for. So my question is, can you see the symbol for standard deviation of the population in that question? No. What you can see is the symbol for standard deviation of the sample. Ukiangalia zile symbols nimekupea kwa statistics, you can see the symbol for standard deviation. So if you cannot see that, then your population is unknown. Your population is unknown. Unknown population. The next thing that you need to ask yourself, which measure is of interest? Which measure are we getting the confidence interval for? It is the mean weight. Is it 1 or 7 or 2? Actually, you just be getting either 1 or 2. So in 1 or 2. Which one and which one? In simple terms, nauliza kwa hiyo swali umepewa how many values of the means? Naona ngapi? One. It's just one value of the mean. So it is single. And ukitaka kutumia Kiingereza, it is talking of the population mean. The population mean, that is singular. So that is single. Single mean. So ukipata swali ya single mean, the confidence interval is given as X bar plus or minus T 1 minus alpha out of 2 n minus 1 multiplied by S, you divide by the root of n minus 1. Now this one, angalia hapa. Kuanzia hapa hii n minus alpha n minus 1, hii ni sub. Ni sub, sub ni namba yenye inaandikwa chini ya ingine. Then times S. S sasa iko in the same line na T. Because I normally see some students write kama S in power ya D. No. S iko on the same line na T. So kama tushaandika hivyo, the next thing now is to write the mean. Tunaambiwa the mean is what? 10, 20. So plus or minus T, 1 minus alpha. I've told you alpha is the value that remains for you to get to 100. So what remains here? 5. So 0.05 out of 2. N is 25, so 25 minus 1. You multiply by S, S is 12. You divide by the root of 25 minus 1. 25 minus 1. Sasa ukishafanya hivyo, unakuja hapa unasema 10, 20 plus or minus T 0.975 and 24. Hii ukitoa kwa bracket is 0.975 and 24. You multiply by 12, divide by the root of 24. So this one we are not going to draw the diagram because it is the same like the one we have drawn in the question and the one that we drew in the notes. Sasa tuendelee hapa, andika 1020 plus or minus. I want you now to go to your tables. Utafute table inaitwa student T. Kati ya hizo tables, student T. Umeiona? Students T table or just T table. Have you seen it? It's on page 55. Page 55. If you have seen that table, on your right hand side, there is an extension that appears like it is hanging. Can you see it? Kuna vitu zimeandikwa hapo. Ya kwanza imeandikwa nini? Tail confidence level. Another one? Tail what? Alpha. The next one? The two tails and there is one tail, there is two tail. Okay. So look here. If you look at the diagram that we have drawn, the two diagrams to Mechora, they are shaded two sides. That's all. Yeah. That's why it's called two tail. And the reason as why we shade two sides is these two. These two. So I wanted to go to the line imeandikwa two tail confidence. Umeiona hiyo ya two tail confidence. Then move towards the left hand side and stop where you can see 95%. On that right, stop where you can see 95%. So you are testing at 95%. Yes. Then you go downwards as you check the titles of the rows. Number 24. Degrees of freedom, there are 24. If you get there, tell me what is at the intersection. 2.9. That is how you read the T tables. You go to the two tail confidence. You stop at the percent that you're dealing with, 95. Then unateremka kwa degrees of freedom. In case your degrees of freedom is not one of what is given there in the title, you go for the nearest. Tuseme umepewa 370 degrees of freedom. Sasa sidhani hapo hiyo column hizo rows zinateremka mpaka 370, sio? So you take the one that you think is nearest to 370. But for now, times 12, you divide by the root of 24. So this is 1020 plus or minus. Give me this answer to two decimals. 5.06. So on the lower side, when you subtract, $14.94. This is mu. On the upper side, it is 1025.06. That's how you go about it. The next one now is question 4. That one you shall do. I want you to leave a space. Kama tu imechukuliwa na hii. Fanya to the same. The formula is the same, so it's only the figures that you shall change. Patrick, read for us question 5.
One sample of transactions in a set of accounts is taken from investigation by some auditors. Out of the sample of 500 entries, 10 reveals an error of entry or procedure. Estimated at 5% confidence interval for the proportion of errors to the whole population of transactions.
Okay, thank you, that's good. So the first thing again, have you seen the symbol for the standard deviation of the population there? It's not there, Sidio. Yeah, so the population is what? Unknown. Unknown population. Now, are we dealing with the mean, with the proportion, or with the variance? Yeah? Proportion, and it's just what? Single proportion. Now, for the matters of proportions, whether population is known or unknown, we always use set. Whether population is known or unknown. Bora umeona proportion, you should always use set. So the formula for the confidence interval is given as sample proportion plus or minus z alpha out of 2 sample proportion brackets 1 minus sample proportion, you divide by the square root of n, or rather you divide by n, then you get the square root. That's how you get the standard error for the sample proportion. So in our case here now, we are told that out of the sample of 500, 10 reveals some error. So we need to compute that. It is not provided, so we need to compute and say this is 10 out of 500. So give me that. 10 out of 500 is what? 0.02. 0.02. So 0.02 plus or minus z at 95%, that is 0.05 out of 2, multiplied by 0.02, 1 minus 0.02, you divide by the sample size, which is 500. You get the square root of that. Sasa, this is 0.02 plus or minus. Hii ni ile tu tumesoma kwa swali la kwanza. Tunakumbuka z at 95% na tukapata 1.96. So times 0.02 into brackets 1 minus 0.02. You divide by 500 and get the square root. So give me this answer to 3 decimals. 0.02 plus or minus. Give me this to 3 decimals. 0.012. When you subtract on the lower side, -0.008. So this is the population and 0.032. So we are okay with that. Sasa on your own, you shall handle question 6. And you see question 6 is talking of 30,000 somewhere. Hiyo 30,000, ukishamaliza ukishafika hapa, then you shall multiply now the whole of this by 30,000. Multiply him by 30,000 and him by 30,000, so that you convert them into whole values. So that is about the confidence interval. I believe that is a good introduction. You have gotten it. As I said, it is not a major thing in your syllabus, but it is required in understanding some of the other things that you have to do. So with that, let's now look at hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing. I will write that a hypothesis is a pre-existing opinion. Is a pre-existing opinion. Stop. Hypothesis testing refers to procedures taken to determine whether the pre-existing opinion is the reality. Is the reality. It is important because opinion determines the action taken, which determines the results, which can be good or bad. Hypothesis testing is also known as test of significance. Hypothesis testing is also known as test of significance. The following steps are taken. Now, what happens in life? God has given us eyes or feelings. And when you see a person for the very first time, you form an opinion, which tells you this person is good or bad. You form an opinion. We call it the first impression, the halo effect. That opinion that you have formed determines the action that you take. If the opinion tells you the person is good, most likely you will be near them. If your opinion has told you the person is bad, you will be running away from them. Whatever you do generates what? Results. The results will be good or will be bad. Now, the results are good if the opinion is equal to the reality. Uliona the guy is good, and for sure the guy is good. So when you went near him, you have benefited. You saw the person and thought that the person is bad, and for sure the person is bad. So when you ran away from them, you are safe. So the result is good. The result is bad if the opinion is not equal to reality. You saw the person as good, but the reality is that the person is bad. So when you saw they are good, you approached them. And because in reality they are bad, you are now suffering. It's bad. Or you saw the person and thought that the person is bad, and therefore you ran away from them. But in reality, the person is good. But because you ran away from them, you are missing out the benefits you would have gotten if you would have gone to them. Is it making sense? Or this one of running away has no lost benefits. Let's start with relationships. Someone has come your way. They have approached you. And in your vipimo, unampima unaona hii free. So you keep off. Then after some time, things turn. And you start now wishing from far, I wish the same proposal can be made. Do you go through that? Yeah? Yeah. Yes. Or even job offers. Watu wamekwambia kuja hapa kuna kajob. But ukikaangalia hivi unaona hii kule. Hii hata hii pesa wananitia 3,000 ama 10,000. Acha niachane nayo. Later on unakuja kugundua hiyo 2,000 ama hiyo 5,000, it was the basic. The allowances ama vitu ni nzuri sana huko. But because you declined, then you cannot. So it's not just about relationships. I remember in the year 2009, I had been offered an opportunity to work with Citibank. But they gave me the opportunity to work as a teller. And they promised to pay me 50,000. Now, what I was doing by then was paying me more than 50,000. So I turned down the offer. Because I thought it was what? Bad. But several years down the line, including this year, when I look back, I wish they can make the same offer. But because I saw it as bad, I ran away. Now the result is what? Yeah. So there are many, many instances. Only that I don't have a lot of time to discuss in a detailed way. But I hope you have gotten what I'm saying. Yeah. It is the question of appearance versus reality. It's the question of not everything that glitters that is gold, but everything that glitters is what? Is gold. So when you see a person for the very first time, the opinion you form can either help you benefit or not benefit. So the steps that are taken, one, develop the hypothesis. Develop the hypothesis. We stop still on the same. There are two types of hypothesis. There are two types of hypothesis. Roman 1, naitwa null hypothesis. Null hypothesis into brackets 8 knots. 8 knots. We explain kidogo. This is formed to deny the current opinion. This is formed to deny the current opinion in order to gather more information. In order to gather more information in support of the opinion. In support of the opinion. Number 2, naitwa alternative hypothesis. HA. Alternative hypothesis. This is formed to agree with the current opinion. This is formed to agree with the current opinion. Yeah, so anytime you see a person or you hear of a thing, this is the first thing. Develop the hypothesis. And you're saying the null is formed to deny. It's like I come your way and I tell you I'm a very good person and I want a relationship with you. And when I talk about the relationship, please note there are many types of relationships. Don't just confine yourself to the boy-girl relationship. There are many types, including the one I have with you right now, teacher, student. Yes. So I've come your way, I want a relationship. And whatever kind of a relationship is beneficial. So if I'm coming your way for a relationship, be sure there is something I want. There are some benefits I want from you. Yeah. Those are the basics, and we'll be talking about them in a lot of. Now, when that proposal has been made, you need to doubt it. That's what we call the null hypothesis. I come your way and tell you I'm very good. What you need to do is to doubt whether I'm good. You say, well, I'm good. I doubt. Now, when you say you doubt, you are simply telling me you don't think that I'm good. And if I think I am good, and you should know that I am good, then I'll start giving you more information of how good I am. I'll start telling you, for example, you don't remember what I did for you here and there. You can even go and ask so and so. So I give you more information. And as I continue giving you more information, you have time now to assess whether you will say yes or you will say no. Now, the alternative is when you agree with the alternative and you quickly say yes. Now, in life, it is always good to start with this. If you don't want to suffer most of the times, I'm not saying you cannot suffer, but if you don't want to suffer most of the times, anything that comes your way, you should approach it this way. Is what you hear people say, that everyone is a suspect until proven until proven innocent. Yes, until proven innocent. Everyone is a suspect or everyone is guilty until proven innocent. However, you should not again be very faithful to that, because you can lose out on some things. There are some fellows who come your way looking like they are guilty, but they are very innocent. They are good. They are beneficial. And those people who want to con others, they will ensure that they weaken your ability to form this. And one of the ways that they weaken is by manipulating your opinion. And one of the ways of manipulating the opinion is the dressing. When I come your way dressed in a very smart way, nimeng'ara, niko na suit, niko na tie, you think this is a very good man. That's all. You think that you are safe. Actually, even when you are walking around the streets, ukitembea na watu wako safi kama venye tuko sahi, you feel you are safe. Wait until you see a very dirty person coming your way or walking behind you. So you start activating your defense mechanism. It's because of the opinion. Your opinion tells you huyu ni mchafu, anaweza kuwa mwizi. Huyu ni msafi, anaweza kuwa mzuri. So the conmen will always come your way when they are smartly dressed. And that changes your opinion. Even boys or men, when you are approaching ladies, you just go in dressed casually. For men, Patrick, would you approach a lady when you are just dressed in her? Yeah, you have to be very smart. Actually, history has it. Some of us even borrow suits when you are going to meet the lady. Then wakati asha kucha kwako anakuuliza ile suit nitaiosha siku gani? Baadaye anagundua ilikuwa ya kuomba. The other way that may weaken this is by telling you you look familiar. If you find a person in the streets and they tell you you look familiar, you need to be very careful. Before you say you also look familiar, question them. Because when I tell you you look familiar, I'm simply telling you we have earlier on met. It is only that your mind is not reminding you where we met. And because it appears bad manners not to remember people you have interacted with, and you don't want to be seen bad manner, you also quickly say that you look familiar. And the moment you say you look familiar, you open the door. An offer made by a person who is familiar is easier to accept than an offer made by a stranger. Let's go back to relationships of boys and girls, or men and women. If I want to propose to a lady, I cannot just meet her the first time. If you do that, you miss it. That's all. So what we normally do, if it's a class like this one, kama anakaa kwa hiyo kona na wewe uko hapa, kwanza the following day unaenda unahama karibu na yeye, nakaa hapo, hata hakuna kuongea. Mwalimu akipeana notes unajifanya ni kama husikii mwalimu anasema nini, unaanza kuangalia kitabu yake, hivyo hivyo, then by and by mnaendelea kuongea, unajua namba yake, within a week sasa hata mnaweza paka mkunywe kahawa, hata mkikunywa kahawa you say nothing. Hivyo tu mnajifanya mnasoma QA. After a month or so, that's now when you say what you want. Is that so? Yes. And it may be easily accepted because an offer made by a person who is familiar is easier to accept than a person who is a stranger. Again, ukipata mtu mara ya kwanza umwambie wewe mimi nataka hii na hii, chances are you will be treated a major suspect and it will be rejected. Step number 2. Define significance level. Significance level. Alpha. This is the amount of evidence. The amount of evidence required to reject the opinion. Required to reject the opinion. Stop. There are 4 possibilities as shown below. There are 4 possibilities as shown below. There are 4 possibilities as shown below. So we have the hypothesis here. It could be true, it could be false. Then the decision you make, you could either accept, that is, you say yes, or you say no. You reject. to reject. Now, if you accept that is true, hiyo inaitwa correct. 1 minus alpha. This is called type 1 error. Hii inaitwa type 2 error. Beta. I think we tend to mention beta when you are looking at probability distributions. It is correct. So 1 minus beta. So when someone comes your way and they give you a proposal, you obviously go looking for evidence. Nikikuja kwako nikwambie I need a relationship with you. After that, you go talking to some people who could know me. Waulize na Kimani anakuanga aje nini. So you get that information. Even when you are looking for a school, I'm sure you did not just come to Destiny blindfolded. You must have inquired from 1 or 2 persons. That's what you're calling, you gather information. Now, hii information utaambiwa, you'll be told 2 types. Utaambiwa Kimani ni mzuri ama Kimani ni mbaya. So those 2 things will be there. Because it's the reality. Hakuna mtu ana uzuri na ubaya wake, si ndio? Yes. Now, as you gather that information, which one would you be wanting to listen more? How good I am or how bad I am? How good I am? Let's be very practical. I come your way, I am looking for a relationship. You go questioning some people about me. Person A akwambie, ama the person akwambie, Kimani ni mzuri, lakini hapa na pale. Which part would you want to emphasize more? Yeah? Good. The bad side. The bad side. Bad side haikuangi kubwa. That's why hata kwa hizo confidence interval tumefanya. So naona kalikuwa 5, hiyo ingine ni 95%. Mtu anaweza kuambia how good I am. Ni sawa. For 3 hours. Lakini for 2 minutes akwambia lakini. Sasa hiyo lakini ndio unataka kuinsist. Why? Because here if you form the relationship with me, it is what can make you suffer. And that is what you want to avoid. So the good side, my 99%, that's not a problem. Because when we enjoy, that's not a problem. What we want to prevent is suffering. So that evidence is called alpha. Now, there is a possibility that the hypothesis is true, but you accept it. Let me use again the case of a relationship. A person has come your way and they tell you, I love you. They need a relationship with you. And for sure it is true, they love you. Then na wewe unasema yes. That is a correct what? Decision. But for sure they love you, but wewe ukimpima unaona hii ni mchezo. So you reject. That's called type what? 1. Or huyu mtu amekuja kwako anakwambia mimi nakupenda. But ni uongo. They don't mean it. Lakini wewe ukipima uone ni kama ni kweli it means you accept. You accept that which is false. That is called type B. Or ukimpima anakwambia anakupenda lakini umpime uone hii ni uongo tu. You reject it. That's called a correct what? Decision. I don't have a lot of time to give you more examples of this and this. Some people will tell you one is more harmful than the other one, but my opinion is that it depends. It depends. It depends. Okay. Step number 3. Identify the test statistic. The test statistic and compute it. And compute it appropriately. And compute it appropriately. The value obtained is called calculated. The value obtained is called calculated. When I mean appropriately, it means I'll give you some formulas that are used. Step number 4. Develop the decision rule. Develop the decision rule. Stop. The rule can either be one tail or two tails. It can be one tail or two tails. So stop. It is one tail. It is one tail if it involves just one side. It involves just one side. Brackets, H naught, HA less than, and HA greater than. HA less than and HA greater than. And two tails if it involves two sides. And two tails if it involves two sides. Two sides, brackets, HA, something like this. Still on the same point, right? The boundaries are critical values. The boundaries are critical values. Step number 5. Make the conclusion. Make the conclusion by locating the calculated value. Locating the calculated value in the decision rule. In the decision rule. And number 6, provide meaning for the conclusion. Provide meaning for the conclusion. Yeah, so that is what we shall do in the next lesson. Thank you so much. Chances are very high we might have an extra class on Saturday, but by the next lesson I will confirm. Yeah, Saturday between 11 all the way to 4, either the 4 hours or just 2 hours of those two. I will confirm. Thank you.